3 days after the 1985 tragedy at White House Farm, and following the completion of the police forensic search of the house, Jeremy Bamber's uncle, Robert Bowflower, and his children, David Bowflower and Ann Eaton, visited White House Farm on the 10th of August. According to their statements, this was in order to remove items of value such as jewelry, cash, and guns from the house. Also present in the White House Farm was Basil Koch, Neville's accountant, and Barbara Wilson, the farm's secretary. There is conflict in evidence regarding who was present in the room when David searched the gun cupboard in the downstairs office, but we believe that all 5 people were in the room at this time. During his search of the gun cupboard, David removed a cardboard box containing a number of items, including a carrier bag with boxes of assorted cartridge cases, a telescopic sight, and a sound moderator, sometimes referred to as a silencer. These were eventually loaded into the boot of Ann Eaton's car, along with a drawer packed with items of jewelry and cash they had removed from White House Farm. They also took a number of guns. Ann listed these as 1. Uncle Neville's 12-bore in Hessian gun case, 2. 410 backstairs, loose, no case, 3. Air gun, backstairs, loose, no case, 4. Anthony's gun, Lou. It is not known how many guns belonging to Jeremy's cousin, Anthony Pargita, were removed. These are guns which Essex police should have removed from the scene during their initial searches of the house on the 7th, 8th and 9th of August 1985. All of these items were then taken to Anne's home, Oak Farm, a short distance away apparently for safekeeping, as her home had alarms fitted. Later that evening, David, Anne, and Anne's husband, Peter Eaton, decided to look at the hoard of belongings they had removed, doing so sitting round the table in Anne's kitchen. David decided to conduct a close examination of the sound moderator and attempted to unscrew the knurled end, but was not successful as it was too tight to unfasten. David, Anne, and Peter all gave evidence that during this examination they saw a small amount of paint on the knurl of the silencer, which Anne described as a fleck of red paint on the end. They also claimed to have seen a tiny blob of blood close to the exit hole, which was about the size of a match head. Giving evidence at trial, Anne described this blood as looking like a blob of jam, and under cross-examination stated that it appeared like a sort of sticky blob. At this point, none of the relatives mentioned noticing a grey hair stuck to the silencer. After this, the examination of the silencer was complete. It was put back into the carrier bag along with the telescopic sight and ammunition and was taken upstairs by Anne and stored in her husband's wardrobe in the bedroom. On the 12th of August, D.S. Stan Jones collected the silencer from Oak Farm and he had a look at it in front of Peter Eaton. Jones discovered a grey hair attached close to the end of it, which he pointed out to Peter. Peter made no reference to the hair in his original witness statement, and the information that Jones showed him a hair was only added to the statement he wrote several weeks later in the investigation. It is a mystery how this hair came to be attached to the silencer, as David Bowflower admitted that during the initial examination he had not seen a hair. Mr. Rivlin, Jeremy's defense QC, asked David at trial, "Whilst you were examining it, did anyone make reference to a hair that you can recall?" David responded, saying, "Not at the time. I've heard reference to this hair through the court and on the television news media, but I'm afraid I cannot elaborate any further than that." So David admitted he only knew about the existence of the grey hair through the evidence of other witnesses at trial and what he had seen on the news. The fact he examined it so rigorously around the table at Oak Farm and attempted to screw off the end and had seen no grey hair places a huge question mark over the hair being connected to the case at all. When he collected the silencer, D.S. Jones placed it in what he considered a forensically safe form of packaging to protect any evidence on it. He told the trial jury, "I hadn't got suitable packaging having examined it to put the silencer in, so I got a kitchen roll holder. In fact, this is a piece of it. and put one end round, put a peg on it, and carefully put the silencer in and bent the other end round and put a peg on it. The lack of forensic care taken is astonishing, but the handling of this evidence continued in a slipshod manner, as Jones threw it into the boot of his car after consuming almost a bottle of whiskey. Peter Eaton complained to the 1991 City of London Police Inquiry about Jones's actions, and Peter's concerns were recorded in an officer's report. It would appear that he was offered a drink and accepted a whiskey, but then went on to drink a large part of the bottle. Mr. Eaton stated that he offered to drive him back to Whittam, but D.S. Jones declined. This may account for the throwing of the moderator into the boot of his car. Mr. Eaton was not impressed by this display of drinking and driving, and never thought when the drink was offered that D.S. Jones would consume such a large amount. The next day, D.S. Jones took the silencer to Whittam Police Station and showed it to fellow officers, including D.I. Robert Miller and D.I. Ron Cook. They too gave evidence in witness statements saying that they saw a grey hair attached to the silencer, describing it as being 3/4 of an inch long and grey in colour. According to Detective Inspector Dickinson in 1986, D.I. Cook said that he took the silencer to Huntington Forensic Laboratory for an examination, but by the time it arrived, the grey hair had vanished. However, this hair, which had never been seen by laboratory staff or examined forensically, became quite a feature during Jeremy's trial. During evidence given before the jury, John Hayward, a forensic scientist who worked at Huntington Laboratory, was asked how the hair could have been relevant to the case. He was asked by Mr. Rivlin if that grey hair had come from the head of Ralph Bamber. That, of course, would be consistent with the moderator having been in contact with Ralph Bamber's head. Hayward said this was a possibility. The introduction of this speculation about the missing hair supported the prosecution's contention that there had been a struggle in the kitchen between Neville Bamber and his assailant holding the rifle with the sound moderator attached. Judge Drake, during his summing up, attempted to mislead the jury with regard to the importance of this grey hair, and during his closing speech stated, "There is the matter that we heard about the grey hair seen on the end of the sound moderator, but which had disappeared by the time it got to the forensic science laboratory. Mr. Rivlin reminded you in his closing speech that one of the experts, Mr. Hayward, said in cross-examination that in his view, that hair could have come because the sound moderator had come into contact with Neville Bamber's head in the fight in the kitchen." Drake went on to say, "Since that is a matter which has assumed some importance during the arguments you heard addressed to you by counsel, I will remind you perfectly what he said about that, Mr. Hayward. He then agreed that if there was a grey hair on the moderator, it suggests that the moderator came into contact with Mr. Neville Bamber's head, and that could account for Neville Bamber's blood in the silencer." This was an attempt to mislead the jury, as the hair had never been forensically examined, and in addition, Neville's blood had not been found in the silencer. In 2002, the Stokenchurch investigation by the Metropolitan Police set out on the trail to find out what happened to the hair. They found the 1985-86 investigations had tried to trace the hair before them. Stokenchurch obtained an action report from Essex Police, which had multiple grey hairs sellotaped to it next to D.S. Jones' handwriting. Stokenchurch made several attempts to interview D.S. Jones about the hair, and eventually they interviewed him on various other matters, but no information is disclosed about what happened to the hair and how it came to appear, disappear, and reappear over a number of years. Given the incongruous appearance and disappearance of the hair, it is highly unlikely that one ever existed attached to the moderator, and suggests an attempt by D.S. Jones to plant evidence. It is probable that the hair was found not to belong to Mr. Neville or June Bamber, and therefore its value to the prosecution argument was zero, but the introduction of some discussion about the missing hair at trial served to plant the possibility of the sound moderator being on the rifle during the killings, which was essential to the conviction of Jeremy Bamber.